I've always been a fan of your very specific style. It seems very much influenced by, I'm sure influenced by guys like Richard Lewis and George Carlin. Is also very much is equally influenced by radio or talk radio guys like Steve Dahl and Art Bell. I'm wondering if there's anything to that.
Well, I don't know if I'm as conspiratorial as Art Bell. Or as afraid as Art Bell. But I will take that compliment because he's got a beautiful radio voice. And as far as comedy goes, I don't know. I'll bounce around here for my answer as I yell into my telephone unnecessarily. I think Richard Lewis is right on the money. Richard Lewis, Robert Klein, Johnny Carson quite a bit, and Groucho are the four. Mix that with Steve Dahl, who I certainly grew up idolizing, both Steve Dahl and Gary Meyer. In addition to like any of the morning or regular DJs that had a personality, not just weren't just the vomit mouths, with our hey, beat out of six, not those guys, but and then I'll take Art Bell. I know I initially poo-pooed it, but I'll take Art Bell.
No,
yes.
I used to love listening to Coast when I was in school. Because you know what, his magic is that if you give him the right caller, he'll spin that yarn for 3 straight hours and just he'll run with it.
You know what? You're right. I don't know if you ever heard my favorite Art Bell. My wife and I were listening one night, and Art Bell said he got a phone call, and the guy said, "Art, I live in a house that I think might be haunted. What should I do?" And Art goes, "I'd get out of that house." And the guy goes, "You would, Art? Why?" And he goes, "Why would you want to live in a haunted house? Get out." And the guy's like, "Okay, Art, yeah, I'm putting up for sale." Like, this is the dumbest answer, but it was perfect.
Oh, yeah, it's like you didn't know to just leave the haunted house? Like it took you calling into a radio show at 1 in the morning?
He had to call a DJ. He had to call a guy that used to do mornings. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm with you. I love Art, and I don't know if I love Art, but Steve Dahl was... Are you from Chicago?
No, I'm from New York City.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I mean, Dahl was an idol, and, Phil Hendry more recently. I think that guy's a genius, and... but you know what? There was even a time back in the 90s where I thought Rush Limbaugh was a great broadcaster. He wasn't speaking to me, but I think as a broadcaster, he was doing a great job. And I would listen to him as I would drive across the country because it would really be the only thing I could pick up. When you're going across cow pastures and stuff like that. So. I came to appreciate Rush Limbaugh as a broadcaster, but certainly not for his political bent.
Do you think that political talk radio has changed in the sense that maybe, more people on the left or in the middle would be listening to a Rush Limbaugh in the 90s versus now it's pretty clear, like if you're not on the far right, you're not listening to any of that stuff.
Yeah, I think he was certainly, I think he was more accessible in the 90s. I can't really speak for more other political talk shows because I really didn't listen to any, and really I was only listening to Rush by default. But there was a time where he wasn't just this nut job. He was kind of would see both sides, even though he was coming from a right point of view. So when people called up and were just would be just children saying, "Why does Bill Clinton keep lying to us? He just said this," and then Rush would walk that person through it and basically disagree with the person. But I think now, and for me, what really changed for me, and this is a long-winded answer, is when he got his TV show, and I was able to kind of see his audience, which was just a bunch of white dudes with parts in their hair wearing red ties. It was like, oh, this isn't my world. I don't appreciate this at all.
Oh, yeah, it's like the most extreme version of when you don't know what the person on the radio looks like, and then you finally have Eranet and can see, and it's like, oh my God, I've been listening to this. Exactly.
It's funny you say that too, because I'm great friends with the people over at the Bob and Tom radio show, and for years people would always come up to me and go, "Hey, that Christy Lee, is she good looking? Is Christy Lee good looking?" And it's like they still do that. It's like, go on the internet. Why are you wasting time with me, friend?
Yeah, it's like. But I just remember like going on like the Z100 like Morning Zoo website as a kid and seeing like, oh, this big guy in a Hawaiian shirt. That's who I've been listening to.
Right, and obviously I'm much older than you, but when I grew up, all you saw was if you had a chance to go to an in-store and that guy was making an appearance, the DJ. That's the only way you ever knew what they looked like. So like they would literally be theater of the mind. You would have to imagine, what that person looks like when they're talking, what their hair is like. Are they smoking? Are they drinking? What are they doing? And now of course that's away because pretty much I think every radio station probably streams some sort of a camera.
Oh, yeah, but I like that you mentioned the in-stores, because it's not something that radio stations... There's not a lot of cachet to it anymore, but I remember seeing one recently where it was like one of the local DJs in a grocery store, and they just looked like they wanted to just put a bullet in their mouth. Like,
I'm sure they did. And it's so funny, the difference between now that we're adults and we can see that, as opposed to when we were kids, and you'd go, "Oh my God, Captain Whammo from WMET is going to be at the grocery store," and then you'd go there, and it was a thrill to you. You had no idea that guy had no interest in being there. His boss told him he had to do it. Maybe he was making an extra $50. It's fascinating once you see behind the curtain that what radio can really be or what it is.
Oh, yeah, for a lot of my younger life, I wanted to get into radio. That was my thing. And then once I got through high school and into college, that dream very much crumbled very quickly because it was like, oh, maybe I don't want to spend my life like driving market to market because stations keep closing down.
Right. Although part of me still, there's still, because I kind of grew up the same way where because I idolized, Steve Dahl so much as, in grade school and then, like I say, these other guys, Captain Whammo and John Records Landecker, and eventually, a little bit of Jonathan Brandmeier. I always thought, I think I can go into radio. And I think there's a part of me that still, if I got the phone call tomorrow saying, "Hey, do you want to do mornings in Fresno?" I'd have to take a hard look at it and see if that's something I wanted to do.